I have a second channel, Cube Comp MTDX.
Hey everybody. As many of you know, lots of software out there, software that comes with a price, typically has some sort of activation process or registration process. And of course, lots of us don't really care much at all for it. Of course, software publishers have a good reason for requiring use of a product key or registration code for their particular product, but sometimes things just go a bit too far. Now, this video is not going to be about Windows 10 or Windows 7 or Windows XP, for example. And then Windows XP was the first version of Windows to require activation. This is going to be about something totally different. This is about a little piece of software that you used to be able to get on the internet for the price of $20. Now, the only version of the software that actually came with a price tag was the software that got installed on what's called the server computer. Okay, so we're talking about W7 Caller ID. This is a piece of software that you can use to with your computer's fax modem, and you can also use with your smartphone as well to display caller ID on your Windows Media Center computer or on your Windows 7 at the time, Windows 7 computer. So you had three components to that software. You had the W7 Caller ID server, which got installed on the computer with the fax modem hooked to a phone line, and you also had W7 Caller ID client, I think it is, and you had W7 Caller ID MCE, which is the Windows Media Center add-on. I purchased this software back around 2013, supposedly around that time, or 2014. Purchased that software then, so that way we could have caller ID on the Windows Media Center TV computers at the time. So we're looking at the desktop of the BlackMax, which is my parents' computer, and they still use this software, even though they don't have a TV computer anymore. They still use the W7 Caller ID server component because it has a really neat call blocking feature. It logs all the phone calls that come in. You can go back and look and see who's called you, and you can go back and block. You can add numbers to a block list, and also if an incoming call comes in and it's a spam call, you can just click block and it will block the call. Essentially what it does is it uses the telephone modem's caller ID. Well, I mean, it uses the telephone modem to find the caller ID of the incoming call. And in the case that, let's say if it's a number on your block list, or you click block, what it does is after the first ring, once it detects that caller ID, it then picks up the phone and hangs it up. So your computer's modem actually does this, and it's so hilarious. It puts a smile on your face when your computer just automatically picks up and picks up and hangs up the phone on telemarketers. So now that you have an idea of the software we're talking about, the software again, which costs $19.95, has a very ridiculous and overkill activation or registration component. So over the course of the lifetime over the course of the years that I've been using the software, or at least my parents have had the software on the BlackMax, I have had to request new codes like 4 or 5 different times for reasons such as changing out a TV card or changing out a motherboard. Now, changing out a motherboard can be understandable because changing out a motherboard, the motherboard is the core component of the computer. And even Windows 10, for example, when you change out a motherboard, it treats the new motherboard as a new computer. But when you have software that requests reactivation or a new registration key for things as simple as upgrading to a new build of Windows 10, that is extremely ridiculous. So the thing is, when it does this, it generates a new serial number, and you can't manually enter a serial number. So let's say you buy the software, you request a registration key, You send the author the serial number. He sends you back an activation key. You enter it in. It activates the product. You should be able to reuse that serial number, but in this case, the software, it does not allow you to do that. Now, the reason why I can't show you this right now is because I've already reactivated it on this computer, and I'll have to explain how I did it. So several times over and over again, for ridiculous things, I had to request new keys over and over again. And guess what? So I replaced the motherboard in the BlackMax, upgraded it to the Ryzen 5 2400G, and guess what? The software requested a new key. Great, okay. Well, guess what? The website is no longer, the domain is no longer registered, so more or less the author has abandoned the software. He closed his domain for W7 Caller ID. You can actually download the software off of a few different download sites on the internet, I think, but when this happened, I was like, great. So, guess what I ended up having to do? I eventually went online and found me a crack for the software. No, I'm not trying to steal the software. However, I would like to be able to use the software that I paid for. So this is an example of overreach by software protection or activation or registration. So it makes sense to have, if you're a software publisher and you're selling your software for a fee, it does make sense to have some sort of registration involved in your software. But it shouldn't be so much to the point where changing out your TV card or upgrading to a new build of Windows 10, things like that should not trigger a reactivation. And the thing is that reactivation is kind of the wrong word, because it spits out a whole new serial number and expects you to go purchase the software again. Well, and of course, every time I didn't purchase the software over and over again, I just reached out to the author via email and got a new key from him. But it got to the point where I just said, you know what, I'm getting sick and tired of this. So I downloaded a crack. A keygen. And actually, and use the keygen to spit out an activation code. Now, this software doesn't connect to an online server to validate the key that you put in. It just has its own little database of serial numbers to product keys. I mean, serial numbers to activation keys. And the keygen, of course, has that same database too. And you just enter in your serial number, and it gives you the key. So the thing about keygens is, normally I wouldn't even talk about keygens on my channel, but this is an example of where a keygen comes in handy when a software product's registration is a bit overkill. Now, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of rambling on here. I don't condone the use of keygens because some of them can contain malware. When I downloaded this keygen, I had to temporarily disable the antivirus so it wouldn't flag it as malware. And the thing is, keygens oftentimes are falsely flagged as viruses or trojans or malware. But I'm telling you guys, it's just, there should be a happy medium between software licensing and the ability to use software that you paid for. I mean, dang. So let's, for example, this is where things get a bit ridiculous. So a software publisher releases software. Okay, let's say 5-10 years down the road, he abandons a product. He takes down his website domain, says, I'm done. Well, people who still have the software, who get triggered with a reactivation, they're just SOL. So, essentially, the software protection that is supposed to ensure that you pay for the software is preventing you from using software that you paid for. Isn't that a little overkill? Over the top? I think so. So anyways, now that I've been ranting on for about 10 minutes, it's going time to end this video. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well everybody, that's it for this video, but don't forget there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to Computer Channel, and also don't forget to tick the bell so that way you'll get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, but if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, CubeComp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.